Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head up towards Gothenburg, or Göteborg I should say in Swedish, which as I've told you many a time is the craft beer city when it comes to Sweden. There's so many little craft breweries popping up there at the moment, it's really difficult to keep track with exactly what's going on. Some of the beer that's coming out of there really is kind of top class, but there's also some really well established craft breweries who are pumping out some very, very good stuff as well. So for this review we are going to go to one of the more established craft breweries up there, and we're having a taste of a beer from a series that I always find very, very interesting. So we're going to go to Jonsered, which is just outside of the city, and we're having a taste of another beer from Poppels Bryggeri. This is one from their Projekt series, basically their experimental series, Projekt Sexton, Projekt 16, and it is an English style barley wine coming in at 10% ABV. This one of course was released on the 15th of February, if I'm remembering the exact date correctly, as part of the small partiers. And the last beers I had in the Projekt series was an Imperial Brown Ale, which was really quite interesting, and also the Triple New England IPA, which was a really good one as well. So very curious to see what this particular one throws up. And I will say that for some reason at the moment in Sweden, these kind of English traditional beers seem to be, rising in popularity again. I'm not sure what the exact reason is, but I do remember having a good couple English-style barley wines from Sweden, and I think maybe one or two from Denmark and Norway as well in recent times. So I'm very curious as to why that is actually, but very curious to try this beer. I've had a lot of English barley wines recently and only one or two American ones, but I hope you guys enjoy my take on this one. It's a series I always enjoy reviewing, and we'll see how we get on with this then. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from the Poppels Bryggeri before. No doubt there will be some more in the near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Poppels Bryggeri then. So the Poppels Bryggeri was originally based in a town called Mölnlycke to the southeast of Gothenburg, but they're now based in Jonsered, which I believe is kind of to the northeast if I'm not mistaken. But the brewery is named after that, which was owned by Johan Poppel, who was a well-known German-Swedish brewer who actually spent much of his life in Vårberg and also in Göteborg as well. But he was born sometime between 1605 and 1610 in Lower Saxony in Germany, but he moved to Sweden with his family in the 1620s. He met his wife Katarina Krakow sometime between 1624 and 1628, and he later founded Gothenburg's first brewery with her officially in 1649, but it was thought as well that they've been brewing there since 1638. And he's also said to have written down the protocol of the city of Gothenburg in Swedish for the first time as opposed to German, which is quite a very important thing historically. But the brewery apparently remained in the Poppel family for a number of generations, and the most famous site of this brewery in Gothenburg was actually at Torget, and you can actually go and see where this old building used to be as well. But the current brewery itself was founded in 2012 in Mölnlycke on a site that was apparently owned by the Poppel family, and the brewery is owned by 15 beer lovers, and it aims to focus on the pairing of beers with food, and this is why you get the little tasting notes actually on the sides of the label as well. But the current head brewer is Daniel Granat, who is a little bit of an, he's a very interesting guy. When you watch the videos of him doing what he's doing, he's a little bit like he's quite a perfectionist, I think it's fair to say, but apparently he always reads up on beer blogs and things like that, and brewing forums and stuff like that to keep up to date with the latest beer kind of trends and the different hops and malts and things that are coming out. So a really kind of experimental guy, and very kind of focused on kind of putting experimental and interesting beers out there. So not a bad guy to have at the helm of your brewery, if you like. But in 2015 these guys moved to their new site in Jonsered out to the east of Gothenburg, which has a restaurant and a shop, and they also now boast the title of Sweden's largest organic beer producer as well. I think they might actually be one of the bigger organic beer producers producers in Europe as well, actually, outside of the macro breweries, of course. But yeah, very, very interesting company, these guys, and they always throw up some kind of interesting beers with this Projekt series that they do. But that's all you really need to know about the brewery just now. If you want to learn a little bit more, you can check out the brewery website in the description below. You can look at beernews.sa, which is where I find much of the information for my brewery notes, and of course you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, and that will keep you up to date with all the latest goings on at these different breweries. So yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself then. I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork of this one before we open up. We can get rid of the brewery notes now. But you can see the standard sort of Poppels Bryggeri Projekt series artwork of this one. They've always got these kind of, it's almost like a kind of newspaper headline sort of artwork on this one actually. I don't think I've said that on the channel before, but it's just kind of struck me that that's what this one actually looks like, to be honest with you. But this sort of black and white sign here, that is the Poppels Brewery symbol. That's also on the bottle cap, of course. I do like it that they use these little kind of recyclable stubby bottles as well actually, and it tells you on the side here the sort of tasting notes for the beer as well. This is a common thing that you'll find on all of the different Poppels beers. You can see it's got an organic symbol there. That is the European Union's organic symbol, and it says on the side here, it's got a quote from Daniel Granat, and he's basically saying this is a nice original barley wine with a well balanced taste, nice sweetness, and a sort of a nice fullness as well. I think it's saying we've lagered this beer, we've fermented this beer basically for over a year to give you a nice flavour profile, and this gives you an extra, it makes it extra nice to drink basically. So yeah, I think that this is one of these things where the Swedish actually probably expresses things a little bit better than I can translate them for you. So just if you want to pause it and have a little look at that, there you go. But yeah, the one thing that you should also point out as well, and there's a little video on the Facebook about this beer. It was taught, I think it was Daniel Granat who was in the video if I'm not mistaken, but he was basically talking about how the differences between the American and the English style barley wines. My personal take on it would be that the American ones are always a little bit more sweeter, and in both in terms of the red fruit and also in terms of the brown sugar as well. The brown sugar leans a lot towards that caramelly side of things. Sometimes you can get a little bit of a treacly note to it, and the red fruit is always very sharp and very sweet. In the English style barley wines, it always has a little bit more of a kind of biscuity note to it. The brown sugars are a little bit more darker and almost well fired, if that makes sense, and the red fruits always tend to be a little bit more kind of phenolic and medicinal. Sometimes you can get a little bit of a kind of alcoholic cakey note out of the English barley wines as well. So really for me the difference is the American ones are almost a little bit they always taste a little bit more kind of candied than the English ones do. The English ones are a little bit more almost medicinal in flavour, if that makes sense. So bear that in mind if you try these two different styles of barley. But I think it does tend to be the case that the American beers do almost taste just a little bit more sugary or something like that than the original English ones, or German or whatever. But yeah, nicely presented beer, this one. As I said at the start of the video, a 10% English style barley wine. So without further ado, let's get this guy out and we will get on with the tasting. Nice little bit of smoke on the opening then, and we will get this out and into the glass. And I'll say to you straight away, when you open this one up, you do get a lot of lovely kind of brown sugar out of this one, but immediately the first thought that's going into my head is like cough syrup, something like that. It does have that big, almost medicinal, phenolic sort of vibe that I was talking about that you often get from these English style barley wines. Of course, one that seems to be really, really popular here in Sweden for some reason are the Thomas Hardy barley wines. They're apparently like gold dust in England. The English guys like Craig at Kent Beer Reviews and Harry at Blue Nose Beer Reviews and stuff like that, they were telling me those beers were like gold dust, but they're actually quite easy to get here in Sweden, so it's kind of ironic a little bit. But yeah, as you can see, this beer looks absolutely lovely. If I hold it up to the light, it's actually a very kind of, it's somewhere between like a mahogany and kind of chestnut colour. It's almost got a little hint of ruby to it as well. I think it's fair to say that it does actually have a very nice hint of ruby to it. And this is the sort of colour range you would expect for a barley wine, be it American or English. You know, they do tend to be somewhere around this sort of chestnutty, ruby mahogany type colour. You can see when we poured this out there was a half finger of a frothy, I would say, you know, I would say it's a nice sort of somewhere between a sort of beigey tinted fawn coloured head on this one. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of the head. If I hold up to the light again, there is a degree of transparency to this one, but it is actually quite a hazy beer, and again when you're moving this beer around, it really does smell like a sort of alcoholic cake, almost a little bit kind of medicinal or something like this. But you know, a lovely looking beer, this one, not out of the realms of possibility in terms of its appearance for an English style barley wine, but it looks absolutely lovely, this one. So yeah, I really like how this one is going together. They've, you know, it looks very, very nice. So without further ado, you know, let's take a little look at the aroma before we taste this one. Yeah, that smells really nice actually. The brown sugars in this one, they have that sort of well-fired or toasty kind of note to them. It's like a very caramelised brown sugar that you're getting out of this one. It does have an element of a treacle molassesy quality, but it does have a little bit of that sweeter caramel that you'd maybe expect of the American barley wine, but it's mainly, there's a little hint of an American barley wine in there, but it's mainly a sort of highly kind of caramelised, treacly brown sugar that you're getting out of this one. Molasses, for those of you that are watching over in North America, it's definitely got that very highly caramelised brown sugar sort of vibe about it, and it's got a good toasty element to it as well, which is very nice. As I was saying earlier, the English style barley wines do have a little bit more of that toasty, roasty toasty kind of brown sugar element to it. And I'm actually, when I'm smelling this beer, it really does remind me a little bit of the Thomas Hardy that came out through Systembolaget not that long ago. It's got all of the things you would expect of a barley wine, this beer, in terms of its aroma. So far, appearance and aroma, it gets a thumbs up from me. But yeah, lovely brown sugary notes. This one, a little bit of a woody kind of note to it, but that's quite subtle. A little touch of nuttiness in there as well. But the focus on this one really should be on the way the brown sugars come out. If you want an English barley wine, you want this sort of caramelised brown sugary quality to it. Like I was saying, there's a little touch of an almost cakey, cough syrupy kind of thing to this one. The red fruits are really coming out with that almost kind of phenolic quality that you get from the likes of the Belgian Bruins and sometimes from the quadruples as well. It does have that almost medicinal quality to it. There's a bit of a sort of figgy, datey, kind of pruny type thing to this beer, and it's almost got a little bit of a kind of candied strawberry or something like that, a candied blackberry. Reminds me a little bit of, as I always say, of these little heart-shaped sweets you get in the Haribo Star Mix. It has that sort of aroma to it, if you like if you smell the inside of one of those bags of Guldbeeren that you get from Haribo. It really has that nice aroma to it. In terms of the hoppy notes, yeah, not too much. It's got a little hint of that earthiness in there. I would be guessing they've used English hops in this one, so in the flavour you'll pick up a slightly darker earthiness in this one compared to other hops. But yeah, a little bit of grassy character, maybe even a little hint of floral note, but mainly grassy and earthy on the hoppy side of things. But yeah, it has everything you'd expect from this one, and to be honest, like I said, the aroma that comes out of this beer does remind me a little bit of that Thomas Hardy's ale that we had, was it the golden anniversary one that it was that I tried, and that was very, very nice. So I'm hoping that this beer follows somewhere along the same light. But yeah, let's have a taste of this one then. So this one is the English barley wine, Projekt number 6 ton from Poppels Bryggeri in Jonsered, just out to the east of Gothenburg. One of the more established, I guess you could say, Swedish craft breweries. Let's get stuck into this one. Slange, skål. Yeah. You know, this could be the best beer that I've actually had out of this Projekt series so far. I think that might be a fair statement. I mean, they might have, I've not tried all of them, I've tried like 4 or 5 of them, but out of the 4 or 5 that I've tried, this one could be the best beer that I've had from them so far. You know, you've got the other beer that I always remember really liking from these guys was the Russian Imperial Stout, and I think it started out life as the Projekt number 3 or number 4, number 3 or number 4. And that, you know, that's a really, really good beer. This one I think is perhaps on the same level as that, and it's always interesting with the brewery. You always have this one, whenever you review beers from one brewery, you always have one that you remember being, you know, just top class. But this one, and for me with Poppels, that was the Russian Imperial Stout, and this one I think actually could potentially push up to that sort of level with Poppels. Actually, it's really interesting. Yeah, this is it's a really nice beer, this one, and I'll say straight away with it, it does give you everything, as it was with the Aroma. The flavour's really giving you everything you would want from an English barley wine. And it's because, you know, sometimes there can be a little bit of these beers, they've got a little bit of English character, but they also have a little bit of an American character. This one really does stick towards the original roots, if you like, of the English style. So let's try and break this flavour down a little bit then. So in the middle of your palate you can feel there's this slightly bready malt base there, and it does have that kind of graininess that you would associate with the English real ales and stuff like this. English malt to me has always been a little bit more kind of grainy compared to the smoothness that you would get at the German malt. I would be pretty sure that a brewery of this size is using some English malt, and that graininess, it comes out a little bit more the further that you go into the aftertaste. I'm guessing this beer, it's not quite as grainy as some of the original English ones that you would have if you would like, but I would suspect that just from some of the smoothness that's in there, there probably is a little bit of German malt in here as well. I think that probably is fair. And when you think, you know, it probably is easier for the Swedes to get a hold of malts from the likes of Weirmann in Bamberg and stuff like that, some of the big German malteries. So this beer, it has the graininess you would expect of the English malt, but I do suspect that with the smoothness that it also has, particularly in the aftertaste, I suspect there's a little bit of German malt in there as well. But you know, German malt is pretty awesome, so you know, who the hell cares? But yeah, it has, the way the brown sugars in this beer come out again are really representative of what you would want from an English barley wine. As I was describing with the Aroma, this one has that really, it really leans towards that treacly molasses side of things there, that highly caramelised brown sugar. It has a nice sort of dark toasted edge to it as well. The brown sugars, if you like, it does get a little bit sweeter the further that you go into the palate, actually, into the middle of your palate. So just, if you go to the very centre of your tongue, if you like, you've got that bready sort of base to it and the grainy note in there as well. If you go to the very centre of your tongue, it's kind of biscuity. It almost reminds me a little bit of a kind of McVitie's digestive sort of thing, but if you just go outside of that little ring, you get almost this it's almost like a ring really, where those brown sugars are kind of coming out, and they're almost like highly sort of caramelised, and there's a sort of dark toasty edge to them as well, which is very nice. So I like that the brown sugars in this beer have that sort of darkness and caramelised quality that you would really expect to the style. If you go a bit further forward on the palate as well, you can taste a nice little bit of that brown sugary note as well. That there's almost a little bit of a slightly more sweeter caramel there just further forward on the palate, and you can feel some of the woody and nutty qualities coming out of this beer as well. It really does have, it says on the bottle that it has a nice fullness to the mouthfeel, and the brown sugar, I think, is the thing that really gives it that. And when you start to go further into the aftertaste as well, it almost just has a little bit of that kind of boozy, cakey, cough syrupy type feel to it as well. But it really is a very well done beer, this one. I like what they've done with this. As I say, you come a little bit further forward from the centre of your palate, you get a little bit of a nutty quality. Just move out to the side a little bit from that, and you're starting to get some of these nice kind of woody notes from the beer as well. But the malt base is the thing to get right with this particular sub-style, if you like. And they've done that very well with this one. So, you know, big thumbs up to Daniel and the guys at Poppels Bryggeri for this. They've pulled this beer off pretty damn well, in my opinion. On the back sides of the on the hoppy side of thing, then, if you go to the back sides of your palate, you can definitely pick up there's a nice little bit of earthiness in there. It does have a little bit of that darker quality that you'd expect of the English hops. I'm trying to think, would it be Kent Goldings that they've used in here? or yeah, I think it could be East Kent Goldings or something like that. It's definitely not Fuggles. It doesn't have the ashy qualities to be Fuggles hops. I think they've used East Kent Goldings in this one because the earthiness is a little bit darker, but you've just got a slightly more smooth herbal quality. You can feel that earthiness just gives way as you come further forward to be just a little touch herbal, and you get a little element of a floral quality towards the front corner of the front corners of the palate there. That's very, very subtle. When they've aged this beer for a year, most of the hops will have dropped out of this one, so the earthiness is still there. That floral quality is very, very subtle, and it is just very subtly grassy around the front kind of curve of your palate as well, which is very, very nice. But you know, after a year, most of the hop flavours will have kind of dropped out of this one, but it suits the beer very nicely. But yeah, the fruity side of this beer again is very good. As I always say, behind the front curve of your palate, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters start to come out of the beer. And for me again, this one is really quite nice. There is a little touch of an almost kind of cough syrupy, medicinal, phenol type quality to this beer, but they've managed to keep it quite minimal in that. Some of these English barley wines, it can be quite overpowering if you like, but the way they've pulled this one off is really quite nice. There is a little bit of that kind of figgy, you know, it's that sort of it's more prunes and dates, to be honest with you. I think it's prunes and, you know, a sort of pruny datey kind of quality with this beer. You come a little bit further forward on the palate and you've got a little bit more of a kind of pardon me, a kind of figgy red fruity quality to this one. There's almost a little bit of a blackberry quality to this beer as well, which is very, very nice. And the further that you go into the flavour, the more that kind of blackberry type note comes out of this. I do wonder if they've maybe sneaked just a little hint of a Williamette into this this beer, because there's definitely a little bit of a kind of blackberry type thing in that, and I can't think of any other hop you can get that from other than a little bit of an American Williamette. I'd be very, very curious to know that just from the way these fruity qualities are coming out. So yeah, that's one of the things, but the way they've got the fruity notes in this beer comes across very, very nicely. So you know, that's one of these things. It does have a little hint of some of the American fruitiness in there, but mainly, for the most part, those red fruity notes in this beer are they are coming out just really nicely and more like a sort of medicinal quality, which is what you would expect from the English barley wine. But yeah, they have pulled off this style really quite nicely, I would say. The further you go into the aftertaste, more and more of that kind of the syrupy side of that brown sugar comes out, more of the kind of woody notes start to come out of the flavour as well. The earthiness is lingering there, and some of those nice juicy fruity esters as well. But you know, overall this is a lovely, lovely beer, and it's a very close and very good example actually of the English barley wine. The things that make it kind of stand out as being as foreign brewed, if you like, I do suspect there's a little touch of German malt in there, because it is a little bit smoother than you might get from some of the English ones, but nothing wrong with that. German malts are great, and I do wonder if they've used just a little tiny bit of Williamette or something in here to get some of these red fruity flavours, particularly the slightly blackberry notes that you get out of this one. But you know, it really does stick to the English variant of the barley wine very, very well. So you know, for that, big thumbs up from me. And like I said, I think this one probably could be my favourite beer that I've had from the Projekt series so far. If they can produce an English barley wine like this, I would absolutely love to see them have a go at a Scotch ale. I think that would be really, really interesting, because they've pulled this one off really nicely, and it would be cool to see them have a go at, you know, a slightly higher alcohol version of a Scotch ale, you know, sort of nice 90 shilling, something like that. That would be a really interesting thing to see from these guys at some point in the future. Throw a little bit of peated malt in there, and I think they could be on to a winner. If they can produce this English traditional beer quite nicely, I'd love to see them have a go at the Scotch ale, because that is a difficult style to pull off, but so is this, and they've done a great job with it. So a big thumbs up to Poppels Bryggeri from me for this beer. In terms of the mouthfeel then, definitely a full-bodied beer, there's no doubt in my mind about that. Carbonation's very smooth, the mouthfeel overall is just really, really oily, but you wouldn't really expect anything else from this beer. There's a little bit of hoppy bitterness to this one, you know, somewhere around the 25-30 IBU mark for this beer. In fact, I think it actually says on the bottle. Yeah, 28 IBUs. It's not a bad call, that, actually. At least I know I'm getting it right when I say these things on the video. But yeah, nice little bit of hoppy bitterness there, but as you would think, most of the hops in this beer, if it's been lagered for a year, most of the hop flavours will drop a little bit. The malt base has a really good balance between the sweetness and the smoothness, and it works very, very well for the beer. Particularly the more complex flavours of this one start to come out more in the aftertaste, which is really nice, and it does have a nice little bit of that medicinal, juicy red, kind of red and berry fruit quality to it. But it's a very, very good example of an English style barley wine, and Poppels can be proud of what they've achieved with this one. So a huge thumbs up from me, and as I say, if you get the chance to try these Projekt beers that they're doing, you will not be disappointed. And this one, as I say, I think is up there with their Russian Imperial Stout, which is probably my favourite beer I've ever reviewed from them. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. A lovely, lovely example of an English style barley wine. So yeah, the Projekt 6 ton, Projekt 16 English style barley wine from Poppels Bryggeri in Jonsered, just outside of Gothenburg. Another very, very good beer, and a style that you're starting to see more of actually these days, which is quite interesting. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. I hope you've enjoyed this one and you've enjoyed my take on this beer. Let me know your own thoughts on this one in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from the Poppels Bryggeri as well, and hopefully I can review some more from these guys in the fairly near future. I'm sure I will, because this Projekt series is always going on. Make sure you check out this beer if you get the chance. Make sure you check out some of their others, and do check out my social media as well. Once again, thank you for watching my reviews, and I will catch you guys very soon. The Projekt 6 ton English barley wine from Poppels Bryggeri in Jonsered, just outside of Gothenburg. Slanja, skull, have a go at this beer. Cheers.